Well, hello there, my friends. Hi. Hi. How are you all doing? It's Thursday. I think it's the 23rd of April, 2020. And here I'm sitting in my office back here, making a video about conspiracies. How interesting. Well, how do I start this? First off, I know I'm going to piss somebody off by making this video. You can't not piss somebody off when you talk about conspiracies in a negative way. But I'm not here to just dismiss or laugh at flat earthers or people who don't believe in the moon landing or even the Illuminati idea. Look, I want to start off by giving you a little background. When I was, I think about 18 years old, so it would have been about 92, somewhere around there, 1992. A friend of mine, Tim, gave me this book. Actually, Tim watches some of my videos, so if you're out there, thanks, bro. I still got your book. You can have it back 20 years later. Never quite finished it completely, but it's a 3-part book called the Illuminatus Trilogy. And there's 3 books in it. There's the, I think, Leviathan, the Golden Apple, and the Eye in the Pyramid. Yeah. And not in that order. It's the Eye in the Pyramid, then the Golden Apple, then Leviathan. And it's crazy. It was written back in the 60s, early 70s, I think. It dealt with every conspiracy you can possibly imagine thrown into one crazy, wild story that is actually multiple viewpoints. And it's an interesting piece of literature, let's just say that. And it was about 5 years later that I got a hold of a book called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. Now, William Cooper was, let's just say that one of his prodigies was Jones. Alex Jones is a well-known nutcase. His ranting lunacy is so comical that I consider Alex Jones to be the, let's just say I look at it as wrestling. People should know it's fake, but a lot of people still don't. And people should know that Alex Jones, pretty much most of his stories are completely fabricated. There are plenty of stories of him sending off his people to go work from their mouth, saying, he'd send us out and say, find something, and basically he'd get all angry and drink. The guy's a lunatic, right? But people actually believe him. So this has always fascinated me. Got kind of off track there, but William Cooper was a huge influence to Alex Jones. And in Alex's early days, he took a lot of William Cooper's work and he kind of, let's just say, plagiarized it. I'm not going to go into detail here. Back when Alex was young on YouTube, I would argue with him personally. I left several comments, but I never said anything harsh. It was, respectful. I said, oh, are you sure about this? And I got pretty much instantly booted from both of his YouTube channels. I learned quickly that most of these truthers and conspiracy channels will delete any comments that disagree with them. So I thought, well, that's kind of a bummer, because I actually understand a lot of these things and I would like to discuss them too. Years later, fast forward to today, 10 years later on YouTube, I pretty much just laugh at most of the conspiracy theories that I see. Not because I don't believe conspiracies exist, not because I don't believe that people are trying to dominate others and control the wealth and all that, because we know that's true. You don't need a conspiracy to see that people want power. But people want to take it to the next level. And anything that gets attention is worth putting on YouTube for them. So, which brings me to Reddit, 4chan, 8chan, and the QAnon conspiracy theory. Now, I've been asked about this a few times, and I'm only going to touch on this briefly. QAnon is complete bullshit. I'm going to say it. I can't say it enough. QAnon is total bullshit. QAnon, if you're not aware of it, I'm not going to explain it to you, because it's not worth explaining. It's a complete waste of everybody's time. These ideas that people can distinguish and decipher, these little signals that let me just wrap it up in a quick little package here. QAnon believers believe that there's a person called Q who is basically a government, somebody who is revealing all this information of what the government's doing wrong, that they have these pedophile rings, which I'm sure that's absolutely true with a lot of these wealthy people. That's not what I'm denying. But that they have these tunnels underneath the ground. Now, the latest QAnon conspiracy says that there are tunnels all over underneath New York where they keep these mole children. Now, this is a real conspiracy. And somebody asked me about this on my channel, so I'm going to definitely lay into this. They say that there are mole children underground which have never seen light, and some of them are deformed and they're malnourished and whatnot. And they're held in these tunnels under New York. And the only reason that the coronavirus was created or the idea of it was just a fear to keep people in their houses so they could put up these medical tents. The medical tents are supposedly covering up exits from these caves underground where they're bringing these children out and treating them and trying to save them. Q believers believe that Trump was put in office to eliminate and attack the deep state, and that he's here to save us from all of these pedophiles. Okay? Now look, pedophilia is a huge fucking issue in this world. It's not a joke. Many of the most wealthy and lucrative people in Hollywood, in the government, and elsewhere are perverts and freaks. I'm not denying that. That is absolutely true. But we are surrounded with freaks constantly and pedophiles. And it's just that the only ones who really get a notice are the ones who are wealthy. And I'd like to say that it's highly doubtful that somebody who is a multi-billionaire is going to bother going down into these tunnels under New York when they could just bring someone into their mansion. The facts don't make sense. But what it is it's more of a way for people to feel like they understand something that others don't. And this is where I'm going to get into the psychology of why people love conspiracy theories, because I've had my share of them. The belief in conspiracies, okay? Conspiracies, I've connected this to dopamine in a way, which sounds kind of funny, but dopamine is one of the neurotransmitters that your brain uses for rewards, and not just reward, but reward and punishment, if you will, telling you not to touch something or to touch something, or, that you want this or don't want this. It's a very complicated thing, and I'm not going to go into what, I don't have enough knowledge on it to, but what I do find is that people who have an overabundance of dopamine can fall into conspiracies for some reason. I'll get to that in a different time. I really should just get to the main points here. The reason why we believe in things that we have no evidence for is because we have a loss of power in our own lives. And I can directly attribute this to a time in my life when I was suffering. In the times when I'm not feeling well, I'm not doing well, or kind of depressed or anxious, I tend to manifest my problems onto society. This is the problem, or that's the problem. And this is just human nature. We all do this at times. But if you're aware of it, and you have the philosophy to understand it, then you can laugh at yourself about it. But when we feel helpless, we tend to grasp onto what other people are saying and say, this is the truth, this is a fact. Don't have to confirm it. I've talked to plenty of people who say, I believe this, you believe that. And I say, well, here's my evidence for this. What's your evidence for that? And they say, I don't need evidence. I just believe it's true, and that's good enough. I say, fine. Then don't argue with me about it, because I'm not going to argue with someone who doesn't care about facts. But the reason why that we believe in some of these things is because life is crazy. It's chaotic. And we like seeing order in that chaos. And it's very simple. When you believe that a giant shadow organization is behind everything, that there is an Illuminati that is running everything that happens on this planet, it's a lot more comforting to people. Believe it or not, it's a lot more comforting to believe that than it is to think that we are on a ball spinning free in space, and I guess you might call it a flat Earth pushing up through space. We do create our own realities to make it work. Does this mean that I know what I'm talking about and that the Earth isn't flat or that there aren't reptilians? No, of course not. It means that in my own mind, my own reality, it makes absolutely no sense, and I don't gain anything from wasting my time worrying about what people might be doing that I don't know. Okay? It doesn't help me, and it has never benefited me. It's the one question I ask people when they say, but you've got to be woke, you've got to understand what's going on. And I say, how has it helped you? People clam up really quick. The answer to that is they get a community of other people who also believe that stupid drivel. And when it comes to Q, I mean, look, LSD, I could go into this. It was the reason why the U.S. government used it in MK Ultra, which was a mind control experiment that went on for a long time in the last century, and probably still is. LSD was used because it does affect your dopamine your receptors, which is why it's such an interesting thing. A lot of people I've talked to on LSD have had these amazing connections that they believe are true. I myself have had several LSD experiences and psilocybin where I believed I understand certain things. And when you come back to your reality, some people actually carry that with them and think it's true. They understand the world. They understand the universe. Maybe they do. But for those of us who analyze it over time, for the last 20 years picking apart what I thought was true, I'd say, okay, well, it would be nice to believe this is true, but it's not necessarily the case. I was having delusions at some times in my life. And I've known other people who have had those similar delusions that, they either are able to conquer or not. Delusions can be carried. The reason I bring up psychedelics is because when you come down, you can laugh at yourself. But if you're in that state of mind all the time, and you perhaps maybe you have a mental illness, maybe you had a complete psychotic breakdown, or you're schizophrenic, other people might believe that what you're saying is the truth. And this goes for all the people who are out there calling themselves truthers. You are responsible for people's mental well-being. I watched Waco the other day on Netflix. It's really good. And I was going to do a whole video about this next, but Ruby Ridge and Waco and how cults, Ruby Ridge is not included in this discussion here, but how people will believe in a cult leader because they are sure of themselves. The more you reinforce someone else's beliefs, the more likely they are to pat themselves on the back and think that what they're saying is true. Look, the Illuminati was a real group. I think it was Adam Weishaupt from the 1700s, right? Late 1700s, lasted maybe, 20 years or something. And there are several secret societies around the world. It's well known. But the question is, do you really think that human beings are organized enough to orchestrate a worldwide mass domination play with all leaders completely aware of what's going on at all times and able to control everything that happens? Because every single thing that happens, people say it's a setup, it's a false flag, it's a conspiracy, they're either out to take your guns, out to take your rights, or they just want to fool you and lock you away in your house, like what's happening right now. A quick example of the virus, we're starting to find out that maybe more people had it than we thought. It's something that I've wondered from the beginning. I thought, is it just the entirety of society overreacting, or is it really as dangerous as they say? And I've been on the fence about whether just to let people do what they do, or if maybe as a society we should protect one another. And I still haven't made any solid judgments on that. I do believe there's a real virus, and I do believe it kills people. But I don't necessarily believe that everyone understands the root of it. It seems like we want to blame, even if it is a natural virus, we want to think that humans created it in a lab because it's easier than saying nature does this. You know what I'm saying? There's a term called apophenia, and there's also pareidolia, but apophenia is basically seeing connections through unrelated objects or ideas. And this is this is how, like with psychedelics and also within schizophrenics, how they can see connections in the world. They can make connections that might be real, and other ones that might not be real. Like seeing 11:11 on your clock, that kind of stuff. You think, maybe I'm getting a message. Maybe I'm understanding things other people don't. Seeing patterns, first off, is good. It's an important part of being a human. It's what helped us evolve. If we couldn't see patterns, we wouldn't have survived and evolved this far. You have to be able to recognize danger. It's like the old saying that's, or not saying, but example, I guess, that's thrown around is back in the day, you'd be better off thinking you saw a tiger's face in the bushes and running or hiding than you would to say, oh, well, it's probably not a tiger. So therefore, being hyper-aware can protect you. But in today's world, we have this hyper-awareness that hasn't gone away, and we have pretty easy lives. So we start to manifest this into seeing dangers where dangers maybe aren't present. And this only harms us. You see what I'm saying? I'm not here to say all you conspiracy believers are idiots. I'm saying, is it helping you? Is it benefiting you in your life? Seeing patterns is super useful, but what's more important is philosophy, because that's what allows you to distinguish the good and the real from the bad. And you could say there is no real, and that might be true. The old Descartes, I think, therefore I am, merely means the only thing you can know for sure is that you have a thinking brain. The way I perceive reality is so unique from the way you do, but we really want to have a grasp on a commonality or something we can all share. Oh, this is reality. This is what's really going on. And that's difficult. You know, I used to believe that maybe prophecy had some place in this world, for example. Reading Nostradamus books back in the day, I've heard plenty of people say this was prophesied, this was prophesied. And my question is always, then why did nobody save people from this or save people from that? How come no major world event has ever come out and actually said this is going to happen at this date and actually been correct about it? Because prophecy is bullshit. That's my belief. That's not a way to discount people, but a way to say, because we don't know, I feel more empowered because of that, I guess. And life is really messy and complex. It's not easy for us to really agree on certain things. I understand that. One of the hardest things with talking to conspiracy theorists is that if you disagree with them, then you're one of them. You're one of the shills, you're one of the agents. I'll tell you, people, I've been called everything you can imagine, from an Illuminati shill to a moon. One guy called me a moon agent because I said the Earth was a sphere. But another person, two different people made videos about me about 6 years ago, where they showed my reptilian slithering tongue and eyes. They slowed down my video, and I tried to explain to them, do you understand what digital artifacts are and how this affects, digital photography? I mean, you won't go back and find this on any old high 8 film or film reels, right? You won't see these same artifacts. It's because digital camera. But they refused to listen. And after having enough discussions with people who said, well, you don't agree with me, so therefore you're one of them, I just gave up on it. I gave up on talking about it or even discussing it with those people. One of the most frustrating things, I think, talking with conspiracy theorists is that their theories are always changing. They're always in flux. There's no one solid conspiracy on certain things. It's not like every flat earther believes this or every QAnon person believes this. It's more like, well, we're going to argue amongst ourselves and we'll figure it out eventually. Even though the rest of the world, all the space agencies agree that the Earth is a sphere and this is how far this is how far this is. All the truthers can't even agree within their own community on the shape of the Earth, the size of the Earth, where it's going, what it's doing. I use that example because the Flat Earth Society popped up in the last 10 years. It's nothing new. This is an old idea that has been resurfaced because of the internet. And groups like QAnon are able to push forward because of the internet. The thing is, one thing, a final note here. For the people who want to believe whatever they want to believe, that's fine. But I've found that they don't ever have to prove their theories to you. They just want to discredit everyone else. So in other words, NASA's lying, every space agency is lying around the world, all the government's lying to you, every doctor's lying to you, every person is lying to you, and they're all in on this giant conspiracy, but they're telling you the truth. And that if you have a different theory, it's like they just discredit you instead of actually analyzing the information that you're given. So we live in the age of bullshit, and that's where we're at. And I hope that maybe people, the irony, the extreme irony is anybody who says that they are woke are usually fast asleep, from what I've found. You can see it in their comments. You can see it in the way they scream in all capitals. They have no control over their demeanor or attitudes online, which means they probably have no control over themselves in their real lives. And just remember that when you think that everyone's talking about this giant conspiracy, oh, that Bill Gates created this vaccine for this virus, and he created the virus himself, and Bill Gates is out there creating 5G and this virus so he can kill you all off. Do some critical thinking, really. You know, not much else I can say. Talk to y'all later.